Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for October 22nd, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas. This is segment 3 of 5, big game preview, NFL, Pittsburgh Steelers, Minnesota. As usual, we'll start with a line report from Vegas runner.
All right, Pittsburgh opened as a 4.5-point favorite at home with the total 44.5. As of today, Pittsburgh is a 4-point favorite with the total 45. So it's gone down a half a point towards the dog and a half point up towards the over.
Now, if there's ever an example, and we have Mr. Pittsburgh here, and for new listeners, this guy, 46 years you lived in Pittsburgh, you've been in Vegas almost 2 years now, but you follow the Pittsburgh teams very closely. And it's a situation where you actually have your friends and network back there, so we get some really inside type information. So I was going to make a quick comment, but let's get right to your take on this game. I actually am going to have an official free pick on this, but I want to hear your take first to make sure I agree with you.
Well, I haven't settled in on an actual play yet on this game because there's a couple big factors in here. Minnesota, this is going to be the first time they're a dog this season. And that's been an angle that I like to look at a lot, is when a team's been a favorite all year and then they're made a dog for the first time. It's like this is their test because Vegas is saying you're the underdog now. And teams have a tendency sometimes to step up big in that situation. Minnesota had a game last week.
Now, how late in the season? I mean, if it's the second week of the season, so you're saying if you get to what week do you start considering
after
this?
You're a month into the season and a team, has been either a dog the whole time or a favorite the whole time and experiences their first role reversal, you really got to look at that situation for the mentality of the team.
On the flip side, if you've been a dog the whole time and you're a favorite, what's usually the psychological reaction?
Well, at this point now, the team, their last game could have been a big win that in the public's eyes they've now been legitimized, and that's almost sometimes where you get that, like a team takes, we're here now, we've arrived, or we start to read our press clippings because we're getting the notoriety.
So typically it's opposite. If it's a team that's been favored that becomes a dog, it's a challenge, and if it's vice versa, it can be a letdown.
Right.
All right, so you're saying that's a slight edge to Minnesota.
That's a slight edge to Minnesota for sure. Pittsburgh, they've won 3 games in a row. They got Polamalu back last week. Everybody that I talked to back in Pittsburgh, Polamalu's nowhere near 100%. He's probably playing at 80 or 85. And with that type of injury, I'm even surprised that he's back as quick as he was. But they're going to need him this week. They need.
So the factor is his injury status is is he going to be 80, 85, 90%?
As the week progresses, that's one of the things that I'm going to look at and see how he's done in practice. But, he will be stronger than he was last week, but nowhere near 100 last week. I'd like to see him at 90 is where I would like to see him at.
Okay, so this is the point I was going to make is this is probably the best example of the year on how highly valued the Steelers are. I think it's a combination that the wise guys in Vegas and the odds makers appreciate their brand of football and the consistency. Because when you really think about it, going back to last year, his team's 4-2. They haven't been blown out of a game for a long time. They're in every game. They had some tough luck. With the Philly game last year, they got beat pretty bad. But against the Giants, against Indy, clearly they won the Super Bowl. But even the games they lost, they were always in the game. And again, if you're betting a team that's always in the game, you're not going to be too far away.
And even their 2 losses this year were fourth-quarter losses.
Well, clearly they should have won. They were 8 minutes left. They were big favorites in both of those games. So all that said, the fact that Minnesota, who has been one of the more impressive teams in the league, remember, 3 points means at a home field the teams are even. If Pittsburgh were 3, you would say these teams are even. They're saying this Steeler team at 4-2 is better than Minnesota.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm pretty sure that's a heck of a statement about, one, how much the odds makers like and appreciate Pittsburgh, but also they're a marquee team and there's a little premium in there that the public tends to bet them. Though I'm not sure if that's the case against Favre and the Vikings. Maybe it is just about value, or just about how good these teams are in the eyes of Vegas and the wise guys. What's the one key factor in your mind, Vegas runner?
Is Minnesota a for real 6-0 team? Because if they're a for real 6-0 team, you shouldn't be getting more than a field goal on the road. That's the bottom line. I don't think they are. And I'll tell you right now, this game hasn't made my card. I'm not sure it's going to make my card. But if it does, the only side it'll be is the Pittsburgh side. That's the only side I could actually bet in this game. I see no reason to take Minnesota here. Pittsburgh, yeah, they're a marquee team. They're a public team. But they're 1-5 against the spread this year. So they haven't been making bettors a lot of money. There's not too much confidence in this team. Where Minnesota, who's been a public darling with Favre this year, is 4-2 against the spread.
Well, but hold on a second. Is if you're saying, because remember, those ATS records aren't just something on a piece of paper.
Right.
People have lost money on Pittsburgh, like you said, a majority of the time this year. And still, against a 6-0 team, they're the favorite. So the bettors still believe in them clearly.
Yeah, or the book odds makers do.
But
we're going to find out
if the,
Sunday, because I don't think the bettors
well,
believe
the odds
in them.
well, here's the thing. The odds makers believe in them and the wise guys believe in them.
Correct, because they haven't bet the other. You're correct.
Because really, think about it. There's 3 stages during the week.
Correct.
The initial line is what the odds makers think. From the initial line till game day is what the wise guys think for the most part, because they're the ones doing the betting. And then game day is what the wise guys think, because they're betting too, but even more so what the public
because
thinks.
that's overwhelming money, especially in NFL.
But I'm sorry, real quick. So you're saying that if the bettors don't believe in Pittsburgh, you're looking at some Minnesota money on Sunday.
I think the books are going to need Pittsburgh big time on Sunday.
So if you like Pittsburgh, wait till Sunday is your
I think the bettors are going to dive all over Minnesota plus 4.
I got to give my pick, so give us your comment, and I'm jumping in.
The one thing that I always say is when I look at a game, you try to figure out public perception of a game. With what happened with Minnesota, that is the toughest type of game to handicap, because it was a tale of 2 different games. Minnesota was blowing Baltimore out, no question. And Baltimore made the big rally, took the lead with just a minute left in the game, and then Minnesota comes back and wins on a field goal. What does the public take from that?
Minnesota's 6-0 and a great team.
But is Minnesota a great team, or were they lucky to win again, like the San Francisco game, and like the Green Bay game? They went up and down the field on them. Green Bay did.
Seems like Marco every week's making excuses why Minnesota's no good and they keep winning. I mean, at some point, just like the other side with Tennessee. And I would agree with you. When I looked at this game closely, San Fran looks to be a little overrated, especially if you look at the Seattle game, and then you see how Seattle laid an egg the next week. Baltimore, I believe, is overrated. We've talked about that. Their offense is a little bit better than last year. Their defense is much worse, in my opinion. And the Green Bay line, or the game to me, was all about the Green Bay offensive line that was so shuffled. That team was in trouble. Favre has a magic at the end of the game, no doubt about it. I do think Minnesota's a little overrated. What I'm going to do here is go over. So my official pick is over. Now I'm 4-1 on the season. Unfortunately, I loved the Giants last week, so I'm going to have to live up to that one. 4-1 on the season here. But the fact is, here's the reason. I watch every play of every Pittsburgh game, and it's really simple. There's something wrong with this defense. I don't know what it is. I can't quite figure it out. This D isn't what it was. And this Pittsburgh offense is much better than last year. That O-line is playing very well. Everyone, you read these game previews and they say, oh, they can't run. They've been running very well this year with Mendenhall. They're above average running. The passing, Big Ben's one of the top 3. He's probably the 3rd best quarterback in the league.
Number 2 in the
offense
NFL.
is great. And if either team is behind late, you can expect a score because you got 2 great 2-minute quarterbacks. I like the over. That's an official pick.
One last note.
You got 10 seconds. Hit it.
Favre has his big game next week. He goes to Green Bay.
I can't believe he's looking ahead in this game. All right. He hates Favre.
They each come in 4 overs, 4 overs.
We got to wrap. All right. Good stuff. Next up, segment 4, we're going to be looking at the Sunday night NFL game. And remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.